سالیک، خیلی چاکرم و خیلی خوش اومدین به چنل یوتیوب من. رسیدیم با قسمتی که خودم خیلی منتظرش بودم. قراره با مارک والبرگ، مجری برنامه مومنت آف تروت، ویدیو کال کنیم، صحبت بکنیم و کلی سوال بپرسیم. سوالایی که شما نوشتین. تو سلام نکردی.
نمیذاری آخه خیلی زیادی انرژی داری و من هی میخوام بیام بگم بعد چیز میشه.
اصلا لیدیز فرست. میخوای از اول بریم؟
نه. سلام بچه‌ها، چطوریم؟ ما امروز خیلی هیجان داریم.
من خیلی ذوق دارم.
خیلی ذوق دارم.
و همزمان باهاش اینم بگم من خودم به شخص استرس دارم به خاطر اینکه من خیلی وقت انگلیسی صحبت نکردم. یعنی انگلیسی رو کامل میفهمم دیگه، این تو برنامه‌ها کامل متوجه میشم، ولی اینکه بخوای بیای تو بحث و سوال بپرسی و اینا، خب یه ذره ما تو از این نظر فرق داریم دیگه. تو جایی که هستی خب همش کارت با انگلیسی و ایناست، من یه ذره دورم.
استرس داره دیگه به خاطر اینکه مثلا من چند ماه پیش اولین باری که ما با هم دیگه این برنامه رو دیدیم، مثلا قبل از که ویدیوش اینا رو بگیری دیگه با هم دیگه اولین باری که دیدیم هیچ وقت فکر نمی‌کردیم مثلا 3 ماه بعدش 4 ماه بعدش یه با خود مثلا اون مجری اصلی برنامه بخوایم مثلا خیلی فرندلی حرف بزنیم.
بذار همشو بریم تو بگیم. قبول داری؟ حرف و اینا رو خبر رو ببریم توی برنامه. بریم سراغ آقای مارک والبرگ. Let's go from the beginning, right?
Yeah.
It's a good place to start.
So we prepared like some questions, like we were like brainstorming like what to ask and stuff, because like recently he's covering the show and it's so popular back home. Like,
yeah, in Iran.
The feedback was
I can't
crazy.
believe the show is so popular because it aired in 2008.
I know, yeah.
But it is.
And the story of why I didn't want to do it.
First of all, let me say I cannot believe that we are talking right now, because I remember like maybe 3 or 4 months ago,
3 or 4
right?
months ago, yeah.
You want to tell the story?
Yeah, so I was here like 4 months ago, and then I was telling him, oh, you know, there is a show on YouTube, like it was from like 2008, like I was telling him like the story, and he was so interested. So we started watching it together before he recording like YouTube videos and stuff. And today he was like, I can't believe like after 4 months like we're recording like a podcast with him. Like,
yeah,
this
it's so
like
cool,
a
man.
dream,
so happy you're here. Yeah. It's an honor.
Well, thank you. I woke up one morning after you started and I had 300 Iranian followers. So I was like, something has happened. I didn't expect to be a big hit in Iran, but I'm happy about it. So.
Great. They have so many questions, so we can go and review one by one. You want to go first?
Yes. So I guess the first question for everyone should be like this: like, how did you get the show? Like, was it like your
that
first
is a
show?
story. You ready to hear the story?
All day.
So the executive producer of that show I had worked with many times before, but then we had a drama. And
what kind of drama?
For 10 years. Drama was I was doing a show for him.
Yeah.
That was very low paid. Then I got offered another. That show then got canceled.
Oh, I see.
And I got offered another show, but I was still under his contract. Mm-hmm. And he didn't let me out of the contract to take the other show, which would have been millions of dollars for me.
Wow.
So we ended up not being so close of friends. So one day I'm doing a different show, a pilot, just one episode.
Yeah.
And as I'm leaving the studio at 9 at night, I have makeup on, I still have my suit on. I get a call from my friend who works for the producer I just mentioned. And he said, Mark, where are you right now? I said, well, I'm at this studio. And he said, well, I'm at that studio, which was only 5 minutes away. He said, we're shooting a pilot. We just fired our host, and the network wants you to host it. I said, okay. I said, who's it for? He said it was for this guy, the producer that I had a falling out with. Yeah. And I said to my friend, are you in trouble? Do you need me? He said, yes. I said, well, then I can bury the hatchet. I don't need to have a grudge. You know, grudges don't serve us. So I'll come and I'll help you out. So I drove 5 minutes. I park, and my friend gets in the car with me and starts telling me about the show. As he's telling me, I'm ducking down because the other host is walking to his car.
Wow.
So now I get out of the car. It's 10 o'clock at night. I have no idea what I'm doing. And I walk to the studio. I see the producer I hadn't talked to. We shake hands. We make a deal. No drama.
Yeah.
I walk in the studio. I say, okay, let's go. And we shot that night from like 10:30 to midnight.
The pilot,
Done.
right?
The pilot that they had been working on all day.
Wow.
And I said to the audience, I said, how long have you been here? And the audience was like, we've been here all day. This is terrible. I said, give me 1 hour and I'll get you home. So I went, I shot the pilot, I left, and I said to my wife, I said, you'll never believe what happened. and then I told her about it. I said, and there's no way I will ever host this show. So that pilot was for NBC, and NBC shot the pilot, but then said, we don't want the show. But then the producer sold it in 20 countries around the world. And then Fox, here in the United States, picked it up. And they called me and said, we want you to host it. I said, there's no way I'm hosting this. And they said, why don't you look at the pilot with your family and then tell me? So they sent me the pilot. I said, there's no way. I told my family, I said, you're going to watch this. It's terrible. And as we put it on and we're watching it, instead of them saying this is terrible, all they could say was, I wonder how they would answer. I wonder what they would do. And they were so into it. And then they made me an offer that I had to say yes to. So then I hosted the show. But all of it was like, 10 o'clock at night. They called me and said, can you do this pilot? And I was doing it as a favor.
It was 3 seasons, right?
2.
One of them was only couples.
It was random. I mean, the second season had some celebrities and other things. But what happened was the stock market crashed in America in 2008. And when that happened, all the advertisers ran for the hills and everything changed. So the show got canceled, even though it was very high rated.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
Why they stopped the show?
When the show came out, it was the highest rated show that season of any network of new shows. So it just was huge. But then the second season, which was much better, actually, the shows were much better, I think, they never aired because the stock market crashed and they canceled. I also think that the show was meant to be one thing, but then the executives in charge got so excited about it, they turned it into something else. To me, the show explored the difference between what we think is true about us and what actually is true.
Yeah, I see.
Right? And I thought that was fascinating. But they just wanted to find out who cheated on their wife.
Like drama.
And so every episode had to be crazier than the episode before. And I said, every now and then you have to have somebody who actually tells the truth. That would be great. But anyway.
How accurate was the lie detector?
So I got asked that question a lot. And I said, would I want my guilt or innocence in a court decided by a lie detector? No way. But could we play a game show with it? Sure. The thing about a lie detector test that I know, I don't really know very much about it, is that it gives you information, but it's the interpreter of the information that matters, that how they read it. We think that you look at a lie detector and it'll go, lie, lie, but it doesn't. So they have to really look at it and analyze if it's truthful or not. And I don't know how scientific that actually is. So I've never been a big believer in the polygraph, although because if you're a pathological liar, like you believe your lies, it may not trigger. I've never taken a polygraph test. I don't.
So from like 2 seasons, what was your favorite episode?
Well, there's a baseball player, a famous baseball player, Jose Canseco.
I haven't seen that.
No, this never aired.
Oh, that was our next question, actually.
Yeah, he's a famous baseball player who was part of the steroid controversy back in the 80s. So he came on the show, and that was a very interesting episode. I thought that was one that people would have gone crazy for. You guys may not get the relevance, but he was a very big baseball player here.
So that's your favorite episode?
None of them were my favorites. You got to remember, I never wanted to do the show. Every one of the shows was uncomfortable for me. I'm a nice guy. I don't, I kept saying to the contestants, take the money, go home, don't answer the next question. And I meant it. And sometimes they say, no, I'm okay with it. I'm like, you may be okay, but I don't want to say it. You're making me say things on television I don't want to say. So, yeah, I don't know that I really had a favorite episode. Every show that I do.
People think maybe it's your act, you know? It's not something that you mean it.
Well, for me, everything I do on TV is real. So I do now a show called Temptation Island, which I think your viewers will love too if you check it out. That I did many years ago, and it just came back, and I'm now doing my 4th season. And it's a dating show, and it's crazy and drama. But then they sit with me at the end of the show, and we talk about their feelings and emotions. And so it's very real to me. On Moment of Truth, that pain, what was going on, what they were discussing was very real to me. They, afterwards, sometimes we would go backstage, and it would be the husband and the wife and the boyfriend, and they say, let's take a picture. And I'm like,
are you sure?
So that's always been a problem with me. Many years ago in 1995, I had a daytime talk show. And back then, the talk shows were what we call messy. Lots of drama, lots of trouble. And it was very difficult for me because I couldn't look at it as just a TV show. To me, they were people. And that's what I always approach. You're real. If you say this to me, I believe you. So let's talk about it. So it's very difficult for me because it's 100% real. And on Moment of Truth, the questions, they knew them before. They didn't know which ones we were going to use, but they knew them. But I never read them before I read them on camera.
No? Oh, that's
wow.
interesting.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I did it, no script. I had a script to say we're going to go to the next question or not go to the next question or when to go to the commercial. But as far as the conversation goes,
you had no idea what's going on.
I do that on my other show too. I don't look at things beforehand because I want to be in the moment with the people. As they discover it, I want to feel the same thing, and then we can have an honest conversation instead of me projecting on them.
Is there any way so we can watch all of the episode? Because there is one episode, it's about the woman who went to the $500,000. Her name was Melanie Williams.
I don't remember. If you say so, I believe you. But I don't remember. I do so many shows. I never thought this would end up being viral, this show. And every so many years or so, since 2008, all of a sudden the clip of the blonde girl shows up. And
that's the most famous one.
And then I'll get a, Twitter or something. You won't believe what happened on this show. And I'm like, yeah, I'll believe it. It happened 10 years ago. It was a long time ago. But I don't really remember one episode over the other. And I don't know where they live. I think many of them are on YouTube, but the company that owns them, they are the ones who put them on YouTube, I guess. And I guess it has aired all over the world because I was in Las Vegas in 2009 or 10, or I don't remember when it was. And I'm on the phone talking to my wife. I'm not dressed like trying to be a celebrity or anything. And I see this family that was from India. I assumed India. The man and the son was a grown man, but the older man, they were dressed in Western clothes. And the women that were with them were dressed in saris and very traditional. And they're speaking to each other in whatever their language was. I don't know what Indian language it was. The young man stops what he's doing and he looks up at me and he goes, "Oh my God." And I'm like, "What?" And he says, "Moment of truth." I said, "Where do you live?" He said, "Mumbai." And I'm like,
wow.
Okay. Yeah, but no one ever told me,
Yeah, I see. All right. So, do you have any specific memories that you can remember from the behind the scene of the show? Like the fun one?
I'll tell you the process, because that might be interesting. So the audience was huge. We had maybe 200, 300 people in the audience. It was a big arena. We don't do shows like that anymore. It was big. There's the executive producer who's in the booth, the control room. But the guy I'm working with, who's also an executive producer, was my friend that I said I would help out on the pilot.
Yeah.
I've known forever. And what we would do is he would come to me, he'd hand me the cards, and I'd say, "So what's the story?" And he would kind of say, "She is going to do this, that." And then he would say, like, question 12 is a big one. And we have a guest, and it's going to be deep. So that's where it's going to get. And then maybe I'd look ahead at 12, right?
Yeah.
And then just to know what, for instance, if it's a question where like in that one episode where I was saying, I'm not going to ask this question, but here's a guest to ask the question for you. I would need to know that. So I would look ahead at whatever business we had, and then I'd go on the set and talk to the audience for a few minutes and talk to the family for a few minutes, and then let's go. It was crazy. But I will tell you how I got the show on the day when I did the pilot. So I really didn't know the show at all, except for what they told me as I was walking from my car to the studio. And they were talking very fast because everybody was panicked. I was sitting with a woman who was a contestant, and the question was, do you really care about global warming? And her answer was no. She says, no, I don't. And the audience boos. Whoa. And then we go to the lie detector and says, that answer is true. So the audience boos again, but then they applaud. I said, you just won $1,000.
Yeah, that's so weird.
Yeah,
like the feeling is so weird.
And then I said, do you want to say anything about it? She says, look, I got to be honest with you. I don't really care about the environment. I'm living my life.
Yeah.
And the audience boos. And it was in that moment that I understood the show. I said, well, congratulations on winning $1,000. And before I have any comment about your opinion, I hear the audience is judging you right now.
Yeah.
So let me just ask the audience a question. I said, audience, raise your hand if you drive an SUV. You know what an SUV is?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I don't know what you call it. I don't know if there's language.
It's same.
And 80% of the audience raised their hand.
So.
And I said, we'll be right back. And then I was going to throw to commercial, but I didn't know the name of the show yet until the teleprompter rolled up and said, Moment of Truth.
Wow.
Because I had just walked in the door. So I'm like, we'll be right back with...
Let me check the name.
The Moment of Truth. But I thought that was really... the moment for me was when I decided, naturally, if any of us is sitting in that red chair, any of us, there are things that will show up that aren't truthful, that we think is truthful, that isn't. So I've always approached it as, who are we to judge someone else? If the roles were reversed, we would all look the same. And so I always approach it with, how do I understand? But never from a seat of judgment.
It's like a torture chair, It's
as a matter of fact, that red chair is in the executive from Fox who bought the show. It's in his office.
Oh.
A couple years ago, I had a meeting there, and I went in, and there was the chair. And that chair was like a big deal. Like, they got it from Sweden. I don't know where they got it. So it was a big deal. I'm like, wait, what? Why didn't they give it to me?
We always ask question like, what would you rather do? Like, if we had the chance, to
actually,
go to
we had the internet show called Red Line with one of my very best friends. We used to invite different celebrities from Iran and used to ask them like weird question about their personal life, about their relationships and those stuff. So
it was like a what would you rather game.
Yeah.
It's like a moral dilemma, we call that.
Yeah.
It's what would you rather do, this or this, or if in this situation, what would you do?
Yeah.
I find that interesting too. I find that interesting. What I found interesting is that in your country, the show has become so, but it's probably because you showcased it and people follow you.
It might be. But I mean, in a parallel world, you, Mr. Mark Walberg, will you go to the moment of truth as a participant?
Never.
That was my question.
Never.
So, all right.
It's not worth it.
It's important to be truthful in your life.
And keep some secrets.
Well, no, we've all made mistakes. And saying those mistakes out loud often can hurt someone else. It doesn't necessarily make things better. Now, sometimes we need to make an amends. We've done something that's not truthful to someone, and we have to clean that up. But sometimes telling the raw truth to someone else is painful to them and irrelevant many years later. So no, I don't want to be on a damn lie detector test. No, thank you.
Have you got any like threat or like weird phone call after like shows from, I don't know, like friends, family?
No. not really anything. I every now and then I'll get, the show that I do now, Temptation Island. And if you watch that, you're going to end up wanting to do a whole thing on that one too, because
We
it's
will for sure.
crazy.
Yeah, we will.
It's a crazy show. I don't know how I end up with these shows. I'm a nice guy. I end up with these terrible things. Every now and then I'll get somebody that will send me a troll message. How can you ruin people's lives and things like that? And the reviews sometimes, like the reviewers in the newspapers, will say things like, this show. One review. I don't think it was a moment of truth. It might have been a Temptation Island, but it doesn't matter. The review said something like, this show is the end of Western civilization as we know it, and Walberg is the devil incarnate.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, I think I'm going to take that as a compliment that I have the power to ruin an entire civilization. Because I didn't really think that many people watched our show. But most of the comments I get from people from Temptation Island, and Moment of Truth was 2008, so social media wasn't as big of a deal, so people weren't messaging me, and Twitter was not a thing. So now it's really interesting, because when you're on TV now,
I'm not sure if the Facebook was there in 2008.
I think Facebook was, but the commentary on stuff that happens on Instagram and TikTok,
Yeah, it was so different.
and YouTube, so different. There was no such thing as going viral.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So now I get feedback all the time, but most of it is wanting me to give them advice, and even on this new show, Temptation Island, which is an old show, and it's actually an interesting story. They made these coffee cups. Mine's dirty, but I'll show you. This is because I'm giving advice all the time on the show, and so they made these coffee cups that say,
Mark Walberg
Therapist.
is my therapist.
and so I get lots of comments of people saying, I'm having a problem. What do you think? I'm like, I'm a TV host. I'm not a therapist. I'm just a TV host. But I'm older than most people that have been on the show, and I've been married a long time, and I have kids, so I really speak about my own life, as far as advice goes. So that's really the comments I get a lot. As far as Moment of Truth, there have been big YouTubers here in the States that have made that a big deal. So it keeps showing up. I'm like, that show hasn't paid me a penny since 2008, and it keeps just showing up and showing up and showing up. But I'm always grateful. Most of the people who reach out to me and send messages to me are like you. They get it. They are enjoying the joke of it. It's what we call cringy television. It's but usually they treat me with a little bit of love and respect. And, that's why I was saying is that I really try to be real so that the person you're talking to now is the same person you saw on TV, and it makes sense.
Yeah, it's so different.
Hopefully, that they understand that I'm not playing a part.
No, that was
I'm
so
not
real.
acting.
That was so real. Like you can feel it when you're watching. It's not like those kind of TV shows like, there's a consequence behind it, or maybe there's something wrong. So
that was a conscious choice, Daria, is that you can either be one of two things as the host. Mm-hmm. You can either be the host who's trying to get you to do things, or you could be the host that's saying, I don't think this is a good idea.
Yeah.
And that's me. But what happens is when you tell people, I don't think this is a good idea, they lean in. Mm-hmm. When you tell someone, certainly in the United States, this episode is too controversial, make sure the children don't watch this, maybe you shouldn't watch this, everyone watches it. If you say, this is the craziest thing ever, they're like, eh. My take on it always is truthful, is like, look, they said they wanted to do this show. I don't want to do this show. This is not a good idea. But if you want to play, let's play.
I just saw you keep telling them, just stop. Don't go further, It's enough.
It's enough.
All the time. I'm like, $10,000 is a lot of money, and then you still have a marriage. You still have family. Go home. Go to dinner and say, we won $10,000 in 20 minutes and go home. But it's a carnival game. If I ask you, have you cheated on your wife? You know if you cheated or you didn't.
Yeah.
But if I ask you, are you a good person?
Yeah. I was thinking the other day I was watching the episode. I was like, okay, it's some answer it's easy peasy because you know what you did. But if
That's
you
right.
ask me, like, are you think you're a good person, or you were like good child for your family, that's
Or do you resent your sister? And you'll say, no, I don't resent my sister, but your body does.
Yeah. That's a tricky one. Have you ever been in touch with any of the guests after the show as a friend? Or...
I try to not have a relationship with contestants, but no, I don't really think. Maybe one or two of them have reached out to me, and we've had, but no, not really. I'm in touch with my other show, Temptation Island. Those people I'm very much in touch with for years.
We're gonna watch it tonight. Like that sounds really interesting. And then the last one. If you have any, like, if you had a chance to invite, let's say, a celebrity, you can be like celebrity couple or like actor, singer, whatever. Who would you invite?
On Moment of Truth?
Yes.
I would want politicians.
Oh.
Oh.
That's smart.
I would want politicians. Because if you want to have a show about liars, that's where you go. You folks who don't live in the United States must laugh at our politics every day. And laugh with fear. Because it's outrageous. And I don't want to get into it. But I think that would be really interesting if on the next Moment of Truth I have senators. You know, that would be very interesting. It'd be better than what you see on CNN.
Okay, Mark, do you want to have a message in Persian for the viewers?
Yes, teach me some Persian.
It's like, ببین هستمت
Hackstummit?
هستمت
Has.
هستمت
Tamit.
هستمت.
Hastummit.
Great, there you go.
Hastummit.
Great.
Now, if you just made me say something terrible, I'm going to be very angry.
No. It's so fun. It's so fun.
Well, let me say why I said yes to doing this interview without knowing you.
Yeah, actually, that's a good question.
Besides feeling you, I could feel you, like I understood you. Hastummit. I was very excited to have fans in a country where we have so much political strife.
Yeah.
So I was very excited to let us be a fun, common relationship to show that really you and I and all of us are family.
Yeah.
And we can talk about the same silly stuff. And when we get everybody out of the way, everything is really actually very real and okay. So it's with love that I say thank you for reaching out. And it's with love I say to all of the fans that suddenly I have in Iran and throughout the world, thank you. I don't know how you say thank you in
Merci, like the
like
French.
Like French.
Yeah.
Merci.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Mr.
you so
Mark.
much.
You want
it
to
was
add
a
something?
pleasure. Like
My pleasure. Well, keep in touch with me
Of
and
course.
let me know after you've seen Temptation Island, we can do this again.
Yo, yes, perfect. So
For sure.
Hopefully for the next one we're gonna do like English subtitles, so you can see what's going on.
For sure.
It's a little scary when people are talking and I don't know what they're saying. So I can only hope it's good. So
This episode will come with the subtitle for
Yeah.
sure. And thank you so much again.
Hope to see you soon
Hope to
again.
see you soon.
Merci.
به من یه جاش وسطش خیلی استرس داشتم جدی. احساس می‌کردم مثلا کلا انگلیسی تموم شد. دیگه انگلیسی بلد نیستم هیچ وقت.
ولی خیلی فرندلی بود.
خیلی
دوست
نایس
داشتنی
بود. و اینکه دیگه دیدین دیگه کلی هم با هممون حال کرد و دمش هم گرم. شاید یهو هم دیدی یه کار دیگه ای کردیم با هم دیگه نه؟ حالا تعارف زد.
نه دیگه گفت بشین نگاه کنین اون شو جدیدار اونو بیشتر دوست داشت اصلا دیدی اون انگار
عاشق شو جدیدش بود قبول داری
اونم
میمرد
قدیمی
شد
بود ولی گفتش که یه دونه سیزن جدید انگار ازش هست همچین چیز ولی حالا باید بریم ببینیم چه جوریه.
اوکی دمتون گرم مرسی که ویدیو رو تا اینجا دیدین امیدوارم که حال کرده باشین اگه با این ویدیو حال کردین حتما اینستاگرامشون رو این زیر گذاشتم یه انرژی باحالی بهشون بدین بالاخره دمشون گرم که قبول کردن اومدن این گپ هم زدیم و همین دیگه نه بریم خدا خداحافظ